I want to end by having just one question about your latest book. I'll burn that bridge when I get to that. And Noam Chomsky writes, badly needed and done with Finkelstein's usual verb and precision. And Cornel West writes, this book is both brilliant and brave. You have recently written a preface, second edition to it. If you could tell us, while writing the preface, you must have rethought about the book and its relevance in the contemporary moment. What struck you, particularly about? I read it and I thought one important point here you mentioned is that there is this identity politics thing, which is what you mentioned as full left. And then there is a real left. There is a mention of the two words. So if you could tell us why it is important for the left to dissociate itself from that identity politics type, that I'm sure would be of our viewers' interest. And I thought if you could read out a few lines of this paragraph, because I really liked what you wrote there about identity politics.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the preceding paragraph, as a young man, until today, it's deeply inspiring to me that the left, the historic left, and I don't consider the left a fixed set of positions. I think there is what you might call a left tradition. And I continue to adhere to that left tradition, recognizing that a lot has changed. And a lot of the, so to speak, fixed positions of the left are no longer applicable to the current situation. The left consists of a tradition, historically some fixed positions, which, as I said, their relevance today is open to serious question. But it was a human type, The left, it stood on the shoulders of the European Enlightenment and the shoulders of European culture. I was reading last night over here the latest volume of Rosa Luxemburg's collected works translated into English. And there are many wonderful things about reading the great Rosa Luxemburg. But one of the things that's striking is the sheer facility with which she refers to history. She refers to economics. She refers to literature. Out of nowhere, there's a quote from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. There's a quote from Goethe. There's a quote and a quote and a quote. They had absorbed the heights of European culture and the breadth of human knowledge.
This reminds me of Marx.
Right. But and then beyond that, because I was reading Marx today also, a biography of Marx, just skimming through pages, the willingness to sacrifice up to and including their lives for the cause, the acceptance of the fact that they will die in the struggle, and it never phases them. Rosa Luxemburg, who I quote, she says, she writes to a friend, I really hope to die at my post in a street fight or in prison. Now, Rosa Luxemburg was a very diminutive, physically very diminutive and frail. She had a hip impairment. And she died the most ghastly death, the precursors of the Nazis, what were called the Freikorps, during and after World War I. They caught her and beat her and beat her and beat her and beat her. A woman who observed it said, I had never in my life seen somebody beaten like that. And you think of Rosa with all the knowledge, all the delicacy, all the refinement, standing on the shoulders of all of European culture, being beaten and beaten by this beast of a man. And they all accepted that that was their fate as revolutionaries. I mentioned standing on the shoulders of European culture, and I quoted Lenin. Once he was listening to Beethoven's Appassionata, and Gorky, the Russian novelist, was in conversation with him. And Lenin wrote, quote, I could listen to Beethoven's Appassionata every day. I'm often unable to listen to music. It gets on my nerves. I would like to stroke my fellow human beings and whisper sweet nothings in their ears for being able to produce such beautiful things in spite of the abominable hell they are living in. However, today one shouldn't caress anybody, for people will only bite off your hand, strike without pity, although theoretically we are against any kind of violence. It is, in fact, an infernally difficult task. That was the tradition. It inspired me then as a 18-year-old, and it inspires me now as I'm heading towards an 80-year-old, assuming I reach that point. And then there's this thing called cancel culture, wokeness. And so the passage you
Which
want...
also came in the name of activism. Like, it's ironical because you are talking about acting, right? When you are citing Lenin's or Rosa's willingness to go to the front and even die for, in the case of Rosa, it's your willingness to act. And ironically, identity politics also carried the flag of activism, but you wrote something that was striking there.
Identity politics is cut from a different cloth. It's not about the tedious work of educating and organizing. It's about likes, shares, and views. It's not about reading, researching, and reasoning. It's about tweets, memes, and hashtags. Its leaders are to be found not as once in Harlan County organizing a miners' strike, or in the trenches of Spain defending the Republic. Its leaders, identity politics leaders, they are to be found at a posh Big Ideas festival in Aspen, or an anti-racism soiree in the Hamptons. Its notion of sacrifice for the cause is charging a mere $15,000 for an online session of psychobabble, or a $50,000 speaker's honorarium for a public lecture of psychodrivel. And I go on to say, the stuff they turn out. You take the case of Ibram X. Kendi. He has spun 13 books, he calls them, out of his pablum, How to Be an Anti-Racist. It is only a matter of time before he releases the trilogy, How to Be an Anti-Racist Doorknob, How to Be an Anti-Racist Toilet Seat, and How to Be an Anti-Racist Light Bulb. This is just so, it's not unserious, it's just totally ridiculous. I was saying to you today, in the historic tradition of the left, there was what was called the class question or the social question. Then subsidiary to that, there was the national question, what we would call today national self-determination, the national question. There was the woman question. There was the Jewish question. There was the Negro question. The great questions of an epoch. Can anyone imagine Marx, Lenin, Rosa, Trotsky writing a treatise on the bathroom question? Whether we should have 1, 2, 3, Che Guevara's famous remark, 1, 2, 3, many Vietnams. Now the big question is at the airports, should we have 1, 2, 3, many bathrooms? Not serious. It's not a tradition I want to be part of.
Well said. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to just rehash it at the end. Do buy the book. I'll burn that bridge when I get to it. It's full of entertainment apart from real analysis. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.
Hi, my name is Ayushman. I, along with Jyotisman, have started this platform. In the last 2 years, we have tried to build content for the left and progressive forces. We have interviewed economists, historians, political commentators, and activists so far. If you have liked our content so far and want us to build an archive for the left, I have 2 requests for you. Please do consider donating for the cause. Link is in the description below. Also, if you are not able to do so, don't feel sad. You can always like our videos and share our videos to your comrades. Finally, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.